On a quiet Monday afternoon, 12-year-old Jake walks into the police station with a crumpled letter in his hand and his heart pounding in his chest. His dog, Max, is hurt, badly. But it's not just any dog. Max is Jake's best friend, his confidant, the one thing in his life that has always been there. Now, Jake is ready to do whatever it takes to make sure Max gets the justice he deserves. But can a quiet boy, with no one to turn to, really stand up against the dangerous gang terrorizing his neighborhood? The piercing sound of sirens echoed through the quiet streets of Eastbrook, a small suburban neighborhood tucked just outside of New Orleans. It was a typical Monday afternoon when 12-year-old Jake marched into the local police station, his heart pounding, clutching a crumpled letter in his hand. His legs were shaking, but he wasn't going to let fear stop him today, not when it came to his dog. Jake had always been a quiet kid, preferring to stay under the radar at school, avoiding the spotlight whenever possible. But there was one thing that meant everything to him: his dog, Max. Max was more than just a pet. He was his best friend, his confidant, and his constant companion. They'd been inseparable ever since Jake had adopted him from a shelter when he was just 6 years old. But now, Max was hurt, badly. As Jake stepped into the police station, he could feel all the eyes in the room turn to him. The officers, who were busy with paperwork and phone calls, paused their work, glancing at the boy with curiosity. Jake didn't care. He was here to do what needed to be done. One of the officers, Officer Roberts, looked up from his desk, sensing the tension in Jake's posture. "Can I help you, son?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. Jake took a deep breath and approached the desk, slamming the crumpled letter onto it. "You need to do something," he said, his voice barely a whisper but filled with emotion. "They hurt my dog. The gangsters from down the street. They—" His voice broke, and he fought back tears. Officer Roberts leaned forward, her expression serious. "What happened, Jake?" "Who did this to Max?" Jake's hands trembled as he explained. "They hang around near my house. Every day. The ones with the tattoos. They bully me, call me names. But today, they hurt Max. They kicked him, threw rocks at him." His voice wavered. "I just don't know what to do anymore." Officer Roberts exchanged a look with Officer Hernandez, who was sitting nearby. Both knew the gang members Jake was referring to. They had been causing trouble in the area for months, intimidating kids, stealing from stores, and now it seemed like they had gone too far. "This is serious, Jake," Officer Roberts said gently. "We'll take it from here. We'll make sure Max gets the care he needs. I promise you." Jake nodded but couldn't stop shaking. "Please, don't let them get away with it. Please do something. I just want my dog back. I don't care what it takes." The officers were quiet for a moment, understanding the weight of the situation. "We'll need you to come with us." Officer Hernandez stood up. "We need to talk to your parents first, and then we'll head over to your house to get Max and gather evidence." Jake hesitated for a moment, but nodded. "Okay," he said, wiping his eyes, "but please hurry. Max is scared. He's just a dog." Officer Roberts gave him a reassuring smile. "We're not going to let them hurt him anymore." Minutes later, Jake found himself sitting in the back of a police car, glancing at the letter he dropped onto Officer Roberts' desk. It was a handwritten note from one of the gang members, a threat to Jake if he told anyone. But it didn't matter now. Max needed him. As the car drove through the neighborhood, Jake looked out the window, his heart pounding faster with each passing street. He couldn't stop thinking about Max, lying there, helpless. He wanted to scream, to make the world hear his pain, but all he could do was hold on to the hope that the officers would get there in time. When they arrived at Jake's house, his parents were already there, waiting anxiously. Officer Hernandez walked over to the porch with Jake, nodding at Max, who was laying in the corner of the yard, shaking. "Max," Jake whispered, rushing over to his dog, who lifted his head weakly and wagged his tail. Jake knelt down beside him, tears streaming down his face. "I'm so sorry, buddy," he said. "I'm so sorry they hurt you." Officer Roberts joined them, her hand resting gently on Jake's shoulder. "We'll get him the medical attention he needs, Jake. Don't worry. We'll make sure these people pay for what they've done." With the officer's help, Max was carefully loaded into a police vehicle and driven to the nearest animal hospital. It wasn't long before the gang members were arrested and charged with animal cruelty, harassment, and vandalism. The news quickly spread through the neighborhood. The kids at school began to look at Jake differently, not just as the quiet kid who always kept to himself, but as someone who had stood up for what was right, even when it was hard. As for Jake, he didn't care about the attention. He didn't care about the whispers or the praise. All he cared about was Max. When he sat by his dog's side, later that evening, stroking his fur, he realized that sometimes standing up for what's important isn't about being brave or strong. It's about doing what's right, no matter the cost. In the end, Jake didn't just save his dog. He proved that even the quietest voices could be heard, and that sometimes justice comes when you least expect it.